conversation here on the Roll-Toddy Draft Blog about the mid-season college football review. And now that we've talked about the college football playoff, we're going to break into some prospects who've been catching our eyes for various reasons. Here with Herbie May, as always, I'm Baker Lehman. So Herbie, who is the prospect who has really impressed you, maybe because of his high expectations that came in and he's meeting those high expectations, or a guy who you weren't really sure about and has blown some expectations out of the water?
You know, this blog is just going to make me lose friends. I picked Bama in the last one, and obviously it was upended. So hopefully, I'm going to make this pick, and he's going to start sucking, and then Ole Miss will win. But I've got Dak Prescott. There's no way around it. The guy's unbelievable. You see him play last year, and he's a solid quarterback last year, but I don't think anybody saw this kind of fire from him this year. The way he kind of controls the game with his legs and his arm. You see him make precise throws. Just a big-bodied guy, just really athletic. I love the way he can control the offense. I love the way he composed himself against Auburn when they had a little adversity. Just a really, really good player. Top of the Heisman watch right now. I like what I see from him, and I'm really, really, really not excited to play him in the Egg Bowl.
Prescott certainly had a really impressive year. I mean, it's hard to look at that. I mean, Mississippi State's #1 in the country right now for a reason, and for the first time in school history, and he runs that Dan Mullen spread offense, to a T, and he has perfect skill set for it. For me, though, I'm going to go with Vic Beasley from Clemson, who really proved me wrong. He has 8 sacks on the year after having 13 last year. And I said at the beginning of the year, if you look back at our top 15 prospects coming into the season, I had Vic Beasley outside my top 10, and I said because I need to see more from him. Because last year you kind of saw he disappeared in that FSU blowout game and really just was a speed rusher. He just could beat people around the edge, and this year people are game playing for him. They've lost a couple guys in that D-line. He's really the only threat. Well, he has shut me up and changed my opinion about him pretty quickly. He, despite Clemson, just kind of being Clemson, losing some big games they probably shouldn't have lost, he has been sensational. As I mentioned, the 8 sacks, he's improved his hand. He's still not very strong at the point of attack and needs to improve on that, but he's shown that he's developed an array of pass rush moves. He's very good at using his hands to get around blockers now, and as we've mentioned, that explosive speed that allows him to get around the edge and get him an edge to get to the quarterback, and he's done it very successfully. He's got a bunch of he really doesn't. The thing that is both good and bad, I guess you could say, about him is he doesn't have a lot of tackles that aren't sacks or tackles for a loss. So he's living in opponent's backfield, but that means he's not either opponents are running away from him constantly, or he's getting blocked up on run play. So I want to see a little more strength added onto him. He's definitely a tweener at the next level, a guy who can play stand-up or put his hand in the dirt, but you'd probably like to see him in more of a 3-4 outside linebacker look.
Yeah, dude, you were a hater on Vic Beasley from the start, and he's been one of my top guys early on. I just love this kid. I love his size. I love his speed. But, you're right. He is a tweener, and it scares me to put more weight on him in the next level because I would hate to slow him down. But, he's I love his size right now in college, but I don't know if I love it in the pros. But right now, guy, you're right. There's 8 sacks. I mean, he lives in the backfield. He reminds me of just like a shiftier Julius Peppers. Like it just kind of looks that way to me. And God, he's just an unbelievable player. I've loved this guy from the start, so that's a good pick.
If he can put on some more weight, just and when you get to the next level of football, no matter what level you're transitioning to, just because of the weight program and the diet program, whatever it might be, you generally gain, depending on your position, somewhere around 15 to 20 pounds, especially if you're a D lineman or a 3-4 outside linebacker. So who he reminds me of a lot is a skinnier, or a little, not necessarily skinnier, but a little smaller Brandon Graham, who played at Michigan and now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, who is a little undersized. I mean, he's 6'1", 6'2", but is an explosive pass rusher, lives in people's backfields, and has turned himself into a really solid pro after some injuries early in his career. So if Vic Beasley can successfully put on a little more muscle and add a little strength without losing much of his speed or any of his speed, hopefully, I think he can go on to be a really successful pro as a tweener. Continue.
Sorry, no, I was gonna go on with my negative. For my down,
disappointed us.
For my down guy this year, I busted, hands up. I got caught in the hype. I got caught in the hype of last year's game against Alabama. I'm sorry. Trevor Knight's my guy. I was expecting a lot from him. I just loved the energy and the way I saw him play in that game last year and against Alabama in that dominant win. And I was sold. I was like, all right, this guy, put him on the Heisman watch, ready to go. Watch this guy fly. And you know what? He just hasn't really performed. He's got 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Yardage-wise, he's not doing that bad. I think he's got like 1,800 or something. But he just, I haven't seen that kind of that flair and that dominance that I saw in him in that Sugar Bowl last year. So I've got him on my disappointment list right now, along as your disappointment. We had the same one of the same disappointments. So, but yeah, Trevor Knight's my guy.
Yeah, and Trevor Knight, and like I said earlier, obviously I'm a Bama fan, so I'm a little bitter towards Trevor Knight for really, shell-shocking us last year, and that's fine. He played outstanding in that Sugar Bowl. And we're not going to get into my feelings about the game, and that's fine. But you're right. He played outstanding in that Sugar Bowl, put up over 300 yards, and still a pretty good Bama defense, and really even started this season pretty hot. Overall, though, he doesn't have a huge arm. He has decent mobility, not great speed. And I didn't, outside of that game, I didn't see a ton from Trevor Knight. So I wasn't buying into the hype. And this was obviously a show-me season. Hasn't shown me much. So I agree with your pick on Trevor Knight. But similarly, a guy who I know that we both really liked coming into this year is Brett Hundley. And
I'm so frustrated by this.
I know. Isn't it frustrating? Because Brett Hundley, this is his 3rd year as a starter. He had a great redshirt freshman campaign. Last year he played very well too, even though UCLA faltered down the stretch. And this was really his year to, just break out. 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, 300 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns. Don't look like bad numbers, but you expected a ton from him and this UCLA offense. Hasn't been there. Jerry Neuheisel was really better than him in that win over Texas that he got hurt. And there was more hype around him because of the video of his father watching him on TV than there really has been about Brett Hundley this year. UCLA's kind of fallen flat on their face. They got blown out by Oregon. Outside of that blowout win against Arizona State, they haven't done much. And Brett Hundley hasn't done much. So I still like what Brett Hundley can do physically, but it would really be a shame if he ended up being a Logan Thomas of this draft or even next year's draft if he comes back for his senior year. All the physical talent in the world, had a hot start to his career, never improved, never really took that next step. And, maybe he can, and maybe he can turn the season around, but midway through, I'm not impressed with Brett Hundley, and it's a shame because he's a guy I liked, and I know he was your Heisman pick coming into the year.
He was my Heisman pick, man. I saw really good things from smart, qualified guy, just really well composed the way he runs that offense. And, I was just so bummed to see him decline. Jerry Neuheisel, if you ever see this video, it's been a while since I've seen you, but congratulations on that game. That was unbelievable. So cool to watch. And you really did. You looked like he outplayed. Brett in that game. So that was too bad. I hate to see a player like that. And Logan Thomas was the same thing for me. I was high on him too. Even though I went to Virginia Tech, and my dad's gonna kill me for saying that. I was high on him too, and he had one of those seasons where he just couldn't recover. But I really liked him, and I'm sad to see him decline. But I hope he stays and maybe tries to figure it out. But then again, you might not want to take the risk. So too bad. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and now let's move on to a final part of this segment. Let's talk about a guy who's really broken out and kind of, shattered our ideas of him. So who's a guy who has shocked you this season in a way that you didn't expect him to, be playing this well, or you really didn't even know who he was coming into the year?
Amir Abdullah. Good Lord. This guy's got, he's got 3 200-yard games, not just 2. He's got 3, and what just an unbelievable talent. Not that big of a guy, not that big, but really, really strong. The way he's built is just he's just a workhorse. Man, he just gets every yard that he needs to get, just runs as hard as possible. Really good at getting the outside, breakaway speed. He's got just all the combinations of an NFL running back, and just the guy that I am so excited to see get to the combine and get to the pros, because this guy I really think could be one of the best running backs in the draft. I honestly just love the way he's playing. And he whooped up on not the greatest of teams. I know put 200 on Florida Atlantic, I think, but 200 yards is still 200 yards, and he's done it 3 times this season. There's no doubt he should be in Heisman contention, and I like him a lot. He's my sleeper pick.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah, who it's a pretty easy comparison to make. I think, is Ray Rice. Just, a little, not that big. If he can put on
195.
Get himself up to, he's only about 195, 200 pounds right now. He can get himself up to, a 210, 215. He's just a bounce to the outside guy who can, run outside, run in the middle, run up the middle. He can catch the ball. Versatile little guy. Maybe not outstanding speed, but still, obviously, it hasn't mattered. He's effective and he's smart with the football. And, like you said,
he finds a way to get to the end zone, and I really love that about him. He just, any way he can, he'll get there.
That catch against McNeese State where, he broke 3 or 4 tackles to help Nebraska avoid an upset by McNeese State. I mean, the guy, like you said, nose for the end zone, shifty runner, can bounce. He's a little pinball is the best way to describe him.
That's a perfect way to describe him. He is a pinball. He's the pinball.
Bounce off guys, hard to tackle. Yeah, you're right. Amir Abdullah has really shocked some people. But for me, it's Kevin White, the big wide receiver for West Virginia. I got to watch him week 1 when, West Virginia came into play against Alabama in Atlanta, and he made some just jaw-dropping catches against Alabama over Bradley Silv, who is no longer starting for my Crimson Tide. But he really played great. He came to play and kind of, showed the world, hey, here we are and we're coming to play. West Virginia now has themselves very firmly in the Big 12 title race, and a lot, not just thanks to Clint Trickett, but thanks to White, who then this weekend, you saw that touchdown catch he made against Baylor, and the big West Virginia upset against Baylor. Oh, my God. This guy, just his hands are so strong, and he's so strong at going up and getting the ball. He's had 100 yards in every game this season. He had 200 yards against Maryland, 173 against Oklahoma, 132 against Baylor, 132 against Kansas, and 143 against Alabama. I mean, what more do you want from the guy? He is the nation. He's 6'3", he's 210 pounds. He's got deep speed. He can go up and get it like a power forward. There's a lot to love about Kevin White. I think he's firmly in my first round as far as receivers go. I think he's getting out.
Dude, you and I are already drooling over this guy before he even gets to the combine. I mean, I'm sure NFL scouts are going nuts. They want 6'3". Are you kidding me? And this guy's putting up 100+ every game? Bring it on.
I don't care what offense you're playing in. He is outstanding. And you know who he really reminds me of? Maybe a little faster version of Michael Crabtree. Just a big physical receiver with strong hands and playing, in this kind of spread offense. But all he does is go up and get the ball and makes plays. And I think that you cannot put a price or premium on playmakers like that. No matter, I don't care how fast their straight line speed is. Guys who can go up and get it and make plays are to be coveted, especially when it comes to the NFL.
He's a senior, right?
He is a senior, yes. And yeah, I mean, what a way to go out this year.
Seriously, making a dent.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of talk about, obviously, Amari Cooper is having a phenomenal year in Tuscaloosa. Jalen Strong's having a very good year for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Ty Montgomery, Nelson Aguilar also out there in the Pac-12. But I think Kevin White, who's leading the nation in receiving, now is almost getting kind of underrated just because he plays for West Virginia. And because West Virginia had that down year last year, people were down on them when they played Alabama and came to play, and that offense ran pretty effectively in Atlanta. I think people were shocked, like, oh, well, I thought West Virginia wasn't going to be very good. Well, Clint Trickett and Kevin White have helped make West Virginia a very legitimate team, and probably a team that should be ranked pretty soon here if they're not already.
I agree with you. I think we're right on it today, bro.
Absolutely. But that's all for this portion of our segment about our midseason college football review. But we have a great segment following this one. Jameis Winston, how you feel about him? But we're going to get to that in a few minutes. Thank you for watching the Roll-Toddy Draft Blog.